Students, today's topic is small businesses and enterprises. So what is small business? Small businesses play an important role in the Indian economy. So these businesses made significant contribution in the field of employment generation and economic development. These small scale businesses produce a variety of commodities. Even these days, the government has understand the importance of these businesses. Now, government give special attention to these business undertakings while framing their policies. So, whether a business is small or large generally depend upon its volume. Some of the prevalent parameters of measuring the volumes are as follow. First one is like volume of capital investment, means whether a business is small or large can be identified by the volume of capital invested in that business. Second is value of output, means the value of finished product generated by that enterprise. Next is volume of output, and last one is number of workers. So through these parameters it can be checked whether a particular business is small or large. So next is meaning of small business. So as per Industrial Development and Regulation Act 1951, any enterprise in which not more than 50 workers are present which uses power, and in case if an enterprise using power, but if the number of employees will not increase 100, then these will be termed as a small enterprises, small businesses. And the investment of capital must not exceed rupees 5 lakh. But as per MSMED Act 2006, means Micro, Small and Medium Enterprises Act 2006, if it is a manufacturing concern, then the amount of capital investment must not exceed rupees 5 crore. And if it is a service sector enterprise, then the amount of investment must not exceed rupees 2 crore. Then these will be termed as a small business undertakings. So next is the importance or role of small businesses in India. So first one is more employment. So these small scale industries are generally labor oriented enterprises. So more labor is required for the performance of activities of these activities. In the Indian rural areas, ample labor resources are available. Some of the people in rural areas remain unemployed throughout the whole year, while some do farming activities and are mostly unemployed in the larger portion of a year. So small businesses provide employment opportunities to these people. So it helps the government in eliminating unemployment in the country. Next is economic strength. Small businesses provide economic strength to the rural areas. Firstly, these business enterprises can be started with a limited amount of capital. So the persons who face financial constraints or having smaller amount of capital can start these small scale businesses. And secondly, these business undertakings provide employment opportunities to the public. So these people can come out of the trap of unemployment and become financially sound. So in this way, small enterprises help the economy. Next is employment opportunity for artisans. In the village, artists having expertise in different fields are found. Because of lack of opportunities, their skill did not came into limelight. So small businesses provide these artisans a platform where they can show their talent. So it provides opportunities to the villagers. Next is balanced regional growth. These enterprises are often dependent on the local resources of the sources of production. So these businesses can be carried on at any place and even in the remote areas. So in this way, industries can be set up. Industries can be set up in the backward or rural areas of the economy. So with the establishment of small scale enterprises in the backward areas, it helps in the development of that area. Next is promotion of standard of living. So with the establishment of small businesses in rural or backward areas, villagers get many kind of facilities like electricity, power, roads, education, banks, mode of transportation. So with these facilities, the standard of living of poor people also improves. So it helps to improve these small scale enterprises, helps to improve the standard of living of rural areas. Next is better utilization of local resources. In rural areas, resources like labor, barren land, raw material remains idle or unutilized. So with the help of small scale industries, small businesses, these resources can be put to better use. Next is less pressure of population on agriculture. As more population depends upon land for its survival, the land is further divided into smaller pieces, which is not beneficial to do farming. So with the establishment of small businesses, many people get employment opportunities in these industries. So small scale industries will help to reduce the pressure of population on the agriculture, or it will help to reduce the dependence of public on the agriculture. And the last one is equitable distribution of income. So with the establishment of these small businesses, the income of the country is not concentrated in the hands of few industrialists, but it is distributed among many small rural industrialists. So these small scale industries helps to reduce the gap between the rich and the poor in the economy. So equitable distribution of income is possible by the establishment of these small scale businesses. Next is the financial assistance to industries in rural, backward and hilly areas. So as we know, the majority of population of India lives in rural and backward areas. For their survival, these people establish many kinds of small industries. So these industries generally depend upon the local raw material. So also these people have very limited amount of finance. So it is very essential that necessary finance must be provided to these people for the development of their businesses. So before studying the financial assistance given to these industries, it is essential to understand what kind of industries are established by these people. So basically, the kinds of industries established by the people living in rural, backward and hilly areas can be divided into three parts. First one is agro-based industries. So most of the industries established in these areas are based on agriculture. Means the raw material provided by the raw material needed for these industries is generally provided by the agriculture. So these industries manufacture many new products from the agricultural produce. Next one is cottage industries. These industries are located within the houses of villagers. These includes beekeeping, soap making and handicrafts. And the last one is khadi and village industries. These industries cover weaving khadi clothes, preparing spices, making jaggeries, mustard oil, woodwork and candles. So these are the kinds of industries which are established by rural peoples in their areas. Next is special assistance provided to industries established in rural, backward and hilly areas. So the financial is provided in many ways. First one is commercial banks. So the government has ordered the commercial banks to provide loans to these small scale industries on priority basis. And many commercial banks have also opened their branches in these hilly or rural areas. Next is land development banks. These banks provide long-term loans for the purpose of, for some special purposes on the security of immovable property, like to pay back the old loans or to purchase land and agricultural equipments for improving land. The loan provided by these banks is generally for a larger period of time, which can extend to 20 years. Next is RRBs. These banks is to provide financial and other kind of help to farmers, laborers and entrepreneurs. So development in agriculture, trade, industry and other production activities have been made possible with the help of these RRBs. Next is NABARD, means National Bank for Agricultural and Rural Development. So this bank was established on 12th July 1982. The chief functions performed by this bank are as follows. First one is refinancing of agricultural credit. So the most important function of NABARD is the refinancing of agricultural credit. It includes the loans advanced by state government, state cooperative banks, RRBs, land development banks and other financial institutions to agricultural, small and cottage industries, etc. Next is inspection of RRBs. So the NABARD also undertakes the inspection of RRBs and also of their refinancing and developmental activities. It checks whether these banks are performing or not. Next one is foreign help. Foreign help in respect of the project meant for the development of agriculture and industries. Next is institutional rural credit. The banks makes efforts to strengthen institutional rural credit structure. The bank allows credit to recognized institutions also. Next is production credit. In case of emergency situation, the bank provide concessional loans to institutions, like in case of natural calamity, war and military activities. And the last one is agent of government and reserve bank. In respect of rural development, NABARD also acts as an agent of government. It provides facilities regarding rural development and training, research and exchange of information in respect of rural banking. So these are the functions which are performed by NABARD. Next is primary agricultural cooperative societies. So the objective of these societies is to provide short-term and medium-term loans to its members. So people join these societies willingly on the basis of equality. Next is SIDBI. As it is clear from the name itself. The full form of SIDBI is Small Industries Development Bank of India. So from the name itself, it is clear that it is established solely for the purpose of development of small businesses. So the functions performed by SIDBI is, it begin taking steps for the technical progress and modernization of small industries. It provide help in developing the market for small industries, means it provide market to the product of small industries, refinancing the labor dominated industries. It provide loans on easy terms and conditions, and the last one is to make available the facility of factoring. So as already discussed in the previous chapter, factoring is that facility in which an agency takes responsibility that he will collect payments from debtor on behalf of company. So it also arranges the facility of factoring for these industries. So these are the functions performed by SIDBI. Next is National Small Industries Corporation. So it was set up in 1955 as a central government undertaking. Many times it is seen that many entrepreneurs face the problem of shortage of funds for the purchase of machinery and equipment. Due to the shortage of finance, many entrepreneurs fails to avail the opportunities which arise in the market. So the National Small Industries is established to cater to this need of entrepreneur. So the functions performed by NSIC are, it provides indigenous and imported machinery on hire purchase basis to these small industries, provide various equipments on lease basis, provide raw material which is scarce in quantity, and also it also assists small producers in marketing their products, and also helps small scale industries in exporting their product. It helps the small industries in the modernization also, and it also provides advisory service to these small scale industries. And the last one is District Industries Center. So the concept of District Industry Center came during 1977 when Government of India announced new industrial policy. These centers give the main focus of these center is on the development of small, tiny, cottage and village industries. So the main objective of DIC is to make available all the necessary services at one place. So the functions performed by these DIC is, it acts as the focal point of industrialization of the district. So it identifies project and entrepreneur for setting up of SSI units, issues permanent registration certificate to these small scale industries, provide loans, workshops and raw material to small enterprises, provide marketing support to SSIs for making marketing their products, act as a link between entrepreneur and the lead bank of the district. So these are the functions performed by district industry centers. Next topic is entrepreneurship development. So before studying the concept of entrepreneurship, it is essential to understand the meaning of these three terms. First one is entrepreneur. Entrepreneur is that person who takes the risk of setting up of a business enterprise. And next is entrepreneurship. It refers to the process of all the steps which are taken by an entrepreneur for the setting up of an enterprise will be termed as a entrepreneurship. Next is enterprise. Enterprise is the result of all the actions of the entrepreneurship. Means all the actions which are taken by an entrepreneur, and the result of those actions will be the enterprise or the setting up of a new enterprise. So what is entrepreneurship? Entrepreneurship is the activity of setting up a business or businesses taking on financial risk in the hope of profits. So entrepreneurship is the creation or extraction of the value. It refers to the process of creating business unit to earn profits under the condition of risk and uncertainty. So what are the features of entrepreneurship? First one is systematic activity. Entrepreneurship is not a spontaneous activity. It is a systematic activity. One has to take various kinds of steps to form a business enterprise. Next is lawful and purposeful activity. Entrepreneurship is related to the establishment of a lawful and purposeful business. Therefore, any illegal activity cannot be called entrepreneurship because it involves risk. Entrepreneurship aims at providing value to buyer, consideration to investors, and profit to the entrepreneur. Next is innovation. So innovation means doing something new. So under entrepreneurship, new combinations of different modes of productions are created. Entrepreneur tries to find out new market. He tries to find out to manufacture new products, new methods of production, or tries to improve the current methods of production. So an entrepreneur performs his job in a new and improved way so that the cost of production is reduced and the income gets an impetus. So entrepreneur exploits those possibilities which remains unnoticed by other persons. Next is organization of production. Under entrepreneurship, new methods of productions are adopted. An entrepreneur is always a thinker and talented individuals who tries to find out good opportunities and make good use of them. So when an entrepreneur gets information about the need for sources of production, their availability, and ensures their better utilization. So it is called organization of production. Next is risk taking. Entrepreneurship is surrounded by many kinds of risk. So risk cannot be separated from entrepreneurship because we know that whenever a person starts a new enterprise, there is always a risk that the business might fail in near future. So the entrepreneur takes the risk of setting up of a business enterprise in the hope of profit. So these are the features of entrepreneurship. Next is need for entrepreneurship. So the need for entrepreneurship is indicated by the following points. First one is initiating the process of development. So in developing countries like India, the need for entrepreneurship originates to start the process of development. Entrepreneurship results in the establishment of businesses, and with the establishment of more businesses, the development of an economy take place. Next is sustaining the development. In developed countries, entrepreneurship is needed to maintain the rate of development. So in order to match development, it is essential to keep innovating in the previous or already established business units. This is possible only with the help of entrepreneurship. And the last one is providing employment opportunities. So with with the help of entrepreneurship, more business undertakings will be established. So with the establishment of new undertakings, employment opportunities will be created. So entrepreneurship helps to remove the problems of unemployment in the economy. So these are the points of importance or requirement of entrepreneurship. Next is the process of entrepreneurship development. So entrepreneurship is not born automatically. but it is encouraged both by the environment and the individual himself. So there are many factors which are inherently available in the environment and are in some way or the other connected with the entrepreneurship. So these factors can be classified into two categories. Like first one is role of environmental factors in entrepreneurial development, and second one is role of individual factor in entrepreneurial development. So first one is role of entrepreneurial factor in entrepreneurship development. So here environment means the economic environment of the country. So it is related to the economic development of the country. Economic development and entrepreneurship are directly related to each other. So with the establishment of industries, the economic development of country will take place. So when the economy is developing, new industries will gets boost. So again, entrepreneurship gets developed, which brings in economic development. In this way, this process moves on. So next is role of individual factors in entrepreneurship development. So two individual factors in the development of entrepreneurship are competency or ability, and second one is willingness. So the relationship between competency and willingness can be shown with the help of following matrix. So the matrix is divided into 4 parts. First one is when a person has low level of competency and he is not willing to start the enterprise. It will be a situation of not ready entrepreneur. So this is a condition in which a person lacks both the competency and willingness to do something. So there is no entrepreneurship in this case because person has no capabilities and he is not willing to start any activity. Second one is a situation when a person has high level of competency but low level of willingness. In this case, these are potential entrepreneurs. Means by making efforts, persons can be encouraged to adopt entrepreneurship as their profession. And the third one is eager entrepreneurs. It is a situation when person has high willingness but low level of competency. So there are chances of entrepreneurial activity because by providing training to those persons, competency or ability can be created. And the last one is ready entrepreneurs. It is a situation when a person has both competency and he is also willing to work. So it is a situation of ready entrepreneur. So these are the individual factors in the development of entrepreneurship. Next is Startup India scheme. So the Startup India scheme was launched on 15th August 2015 on the Independence Day of our country. The scheme was announced by Shri Narendra Modi. So the main objective of the scheme was to inspire skilled youth to develop technology and to make available the employment opportunities to youth. So the business unit which wants to take advantage of Startup India scheme has to follow the following conditions. So first one is the registration of business unit is necessary, and the registration of business unit can be done in the following ways. Like it can be started as a private limited company, it can be started as a partnership firm, and it can also be registered as a limited liability partnership. Second one is if it is a general unit, then more than 7 years have not passed and in case of biotechnological unit, more than 10 years have not passed for the registration of the concerned unit. And the turnover is also fixed. If any person wants to register his enterprise under Startup India scheme, then in any financial year, the turnover of his business unit will not exceed 100 crores. Next is the enterprise must be established with the aim of developing new process, new products, or improving current processes or products. And the last one is the enterprise is not formed by splitting the current enterprise or by reconstruction of some current business undertakings. So these conditions must be followed if a person wants to get his business registered under Startup India scheme. So next is the features of Startup India scheme. First one is innovative development. So the benefit of this scheme can be taken only by those entrepreneurs the aim of whose business is innovation. Innovation here means the main aim of their business is to develop new product or services, to develop new methods of production, or to bring change in the current methods of production. Next is nurturing entrepreneurship. The scheme of Startup India is to encourage entrepreneurs, because entrepreneurship is a risky area. So the youth avoids entrepreneurship. But through the medium of Startup India scheme, the government has made an effort to develop it by giving it a special identity. Next is related with limited area. So the government tries that the benefit of this scheme reach small entrepreneurs. So that is why a limit regarding establishment of business unit and sales volume has been fixed by the government. So as already discussed, the turnover of that business unit must not exceed 100 crores in any case. And if it is a general unit, then 7 years have not passed for its registration. And in case of biotechnological unit, 10 years have not crossed for its registration. Next is minimum legal complexities. So a special care have been taken under the Startup India scheme that there should be minimum legal complexities. Like for starting 3 years, no inspection related to labor laws shall be made of the business units coming under Startup India scheme. Next is declaration of financial benefits. Several financial benefits by the government have been granted to these business undertakings. If a business undertaking gets its patent done, then the business undertaking can get 80% rebate on the expenditure of patent. Next is registration. So to get the registration of a business undertaking under this scheme is quite easy. So very few formalities are to be completed by a person for getting his business registered. Next is Startup Support Hub. So HRD Ministry and Department of Science and Technology have jointly declared that they will establish Startup Support Hub in different educational institutions. So the hub will be set up mainly in the following educational institutions like IITs, NITs, IISERs. Next is government funding. To encourage startup in the first 4 years, aiming at rupees 2500 crore every year, the government has made a provision of rupees 10,000 crore. So these are the steps taken by government, or we can say the features of Startup India scheme. Next is the process to get registration under Startup India scheme. So following steps are to be taken for the registration of a business undertaking. First one is incorporation of business. First of all, a business unit is incorporated in accordance with the normal rules and regulations of incorporation of business. The business unit can be a private limited corporation, limited liability partnership, or it can be a partnership form also. Next is go to the Startup India website. So to get the registration of a business unit in the form of startup, one will have to go to the Startup India website. So after going through the process, he has to fulfill the required information to get himself registered with the Startup India scheme. Next is uploading document. Along with the form available on the website, the person has to upload various documents like a brief description regarding his business, certificate of registration and letter of recommendation. Next is letter of availing tax benefit. In order to avail this rebate, it is necessary for a startup to get certificate from IMD. If the certificate is available, then the person has to upload the document on the website. Next is self-certified conditions. So now the entrepreneur himself will have to certify the following conditions like the kind of business, duration of its establishment, amount of turnover, innovative nature of business, etc. And the last one is getting recognition number. So after completing the above process, the applicant gets the startup recognition number. The certificate of recognition is issued after checking all the documents. So by following these processes, a person can register his business unit under Startup India scheme. And next is the ways by which a startup can be funded. So the following methods of fund arrangement will be followed for a Startup India scheme. First one is bootstrapping. So this is a method in which entrepreneur invests his personal savings. He can request his friends and relatives for help also. So it is the easiest method of funding a startup. Next is crowdfunding. So in crowdfunding, the person generally collect amount for the startup from a large number of people through the medium of internet. For this purpose, the entrepreneur gives the detailed information in his startup on the available platform. So an entrepreneur can give the information about his startup on the following sites like Wishberry, Fundline, Keto and Indiegogo. Next is angel investment. So this is a method of startup fund under which rich persons having interest in the startup do initial investment activities. So the agencies which provide angel investment in India are Indian Angel Network, Hyderabad Angels, Mumbai Angels, etc. Next is venture capital. Under this method, the venture capital company invests in the risky businesses, but they invest in those businesses which have potential to get some growth prospect. So the venture capital companies providing funds are Nexus Venture Partners, Excel Partners, Canon, Bessemer Ventures, etc. Next is incubator and accelerators. So the government has kept several financial institutions in the class of incubator and accelerator. So the organization which helps the startup in its initial state will be termed as incubator, and the companies which helps the startups in developing in the process of development will be termed as a accelerator. Next is winning contest funds. Winning contest fund. Under this scheme, the government of India organize competition for entrepreneurs. In the competition, all the persons present their plans, and the person who will give better presentation is declared the winner. In this way, the winner easily get the funds. Next is bank loan. Under this method, loan will be granted by the bank. So the main banks which provide loans for startups are HDFC Bank, Axis Bank and ICICI Bank. Next is NBFCs. The startups who cannot fulfill the loan conditions of bank can easily get loan from non-banking financial companies. Next is government offer. Government has also set up a fund of rupees 10,000 crore to help the startups. And the last one is quick money. Under this method of startup fund, the arrangement of fund is made mainly in the following manners, like getting payment prior to the sale of product, sale of property and use of credit cards. So these are the methods through which startup schemes can be funded. Next is intellectual property. Intellectual property refers to creations of mind such as inventions, literary and artistic works, designs and symbols, names and images used in commerce. Intellectual property is protected in law by patents, copyrights and trademarks, which enables people to earn recognition or financial benefit from what they invent or create. So different intellectual properties can be divided into following two parts. First one is literary and artistic works. Second one is industrial property. So the main creations included in literary and artistic work includes books, musical compositions, novels, painting, sculptures, movies, etc. And the creations which are included in industrial property are inventions of new technology, industrial designs, ideas of a new product, etc. So what are intellectual property rights? Intellectual property rights are the rights given to persons over the creation of their minds. They usually give the creator an exclusive right over the use of his creation for a certain period of time. Intellectual property is not a thing which may be created suddenly. A person, after many efforts and several research activities, is able to do something innovative and creative. And every creator wants that his creation should be safe from theft and forgery. So if theft and forgery of creation continues to be there, people would feel discouraged of creating new things. So intellectual property is important to protect all these creations. So this is the reason that with the objective of providing safety to the creator of intellectual property, intellectual rights have been formulated. So the types of intellectual property rights are copyrights, patents, trademarks, trade secrets and geographical indications. First one is copyright. Copyright is a legal term used to describe the rights that creators have over their literary and artistic works. Works covered by copyrights range from books, music, painting, sculptures, films to computer programs, database, maps and technical drawings. So copyrights ensured that not only the that only the creator makes use of his creation, and if other person wants to use the creations, then he must take the permission of the creator. To control the intellectual property right, Indian Copyright Act 1957 has been made. Next is the registration process of copyright. So the process of copyright registration is, firstly, for getting copyright registration, the applicant has to fill up an application form, and in that application form he has to provide many kinds of information such as name, address, nationality, title of creation, language, etc. So after filling application form, the applicant has to submit a fixed fees along with 4 copies of copyright to the Office of Copyright. And after submitting fees, within 30 days after checking the application form, the copyright registration certificate is issued to the applicant. So these are the steps to be followed for the registration of copyright. So next is for how much period the copyright will be valid. So the duration of copyright is as follows. So for a writer and artist, the duration of copyright is for the whole of their lives, and it continues up to 60 years after the death of a creator. And in case of movies, photographs and works of government, the duration of copyright is up to 60 years after the publication of creative work. So this is the time period during which copyrights are valid. Next is patent. A patent is an exclusive right granted for an invention. A patent provides the patent owner the right to decide whether the invention can be used by others or not. Here the invention refers to the creation of some new, useful and non-obvious product or process. Process here means formula, idea or some method. So in order to control the rights related to patents, Patent Act 1970 have been formulated in India. So next is the requirement or conditions of patentability. So the following are the main conditions which are to be fulfilled. First one is patentable subject matter. So the invention should be within the orbit of patentable subject matter decided by the Patent Act. So only those activities can be patented which are specified in Patent Act. Next is industrial utility. So the invention must be practically usable in some kind of industry. Novelty, and that invention must be new. And last one is non-obvious. The invention should show the human ingenuity and creativity. Means there must be something new in that process, method or in the formula. Next is the time duration of patents. So in India, all the patents are valid for a period of 20 years. Next is the period of patent begins with the effect from the date of submission of application form for the patents. And the last one is patent holder has to deposit the renewal fee every year in order to retain or preserve the patent rights. So every patent holder has to submit the fee every year so that he can retain or preserve. So to get patent rights, the applicant has to follow the following steps. First one is filing application. So first of all, the application form has to be filled by the applicant with the complete details of inventions in the patent office for patent registration, and along with application he has to submit a fixed fee with the officer. Next is publication of application. 18 months after the filing of application, the patent application is published in the official journal. Next is pre-grant opposition. The purpose of such publication of application is to provide an opportunity to the other parties with legitimate to oppose the grant of patents. For this purpose, no application fees is taken. And next step is filing for examination. In case there is no opposition, the application has to be the applicant has to file the application in the patent office with the prescribed fees again for the final examination. Next is decision of patent office. After the complete examination, the patent officer can accept or reject the patent application. Second last is publication of grant. So when the patent registration is accepted, it is published in the official journal again. And last one is post grant opposition. So even after the grant of permission for the patent, the third party can get its opposition registered. The opposite party has to submit its application with the facts in the patent office. So these are the steps which are to be followed for getting patents registered. And next one is trademark. So a trademark is a sign capable of a trademark is a sign capable of distinguish the goods or services of one enterprise from those of other enterprise. So in some special words, names, symbol, sound, color, the use of which is done to give a distinguishing mark to a business, product or service is called a trademark. So trademark play an important role in the marketing of a product. The trademark right prohibits any other person or business organization from using similar identity. If somebody makes a similar product or service and use a different identity, the trademark cannot prohibit him. In order to keep the identity of product or service unique, we need a trademark. So what is the process of registration of trademark? So applicant has to follow the following steps to get their trademark registered. So first one is filing application. So the for trademark registration, the application along with prescribed fees is submitted in the trademark registration office. So in the application form, the applicant has to provide information like the item of trademark like logo, shape and symbol, the name and address of the trademark owner. So who is the owner of that trademark? It must be also provided. The division of trademark class. So the different products in India have been divided into 34 classes and services into 11 classes with a view to granting trademark. And the last one is the complete detail of the product or service. So the applicant has to provide the following information in order to get his trademark registered. Next one is examining application. So the application is handed over to the trademark officer in the trademark registrar office. He issue the trademark examination report after examining the information given in the application. In case any objection is raised on the application, the applicant can reply to it. So in examining application forms examining, the officer check whether all the information provided by the applicant are true or not, and if any objection is found, then applicant reply to it. Next is publishing proposed trademark. So when the trademark application is accepted, it is then published in the trademark journal. Next is filing opposition. So if any third party wants to express his opposition with certain valid reasons, he will have to submit his application for this purpose in the trademark office. The process is similar to that of the patent granting process. And the last one is issuing certificate of trademark. So after all the objections and oppositions are removed from the proposed trademark, the applicant is issued the trademark registration certificate. So these are the steps to be followed for the registration of a trademark. And next one is trade secrets. So trade secrets are intellectual property rights on confidential information which may be sold or licensed. The unauthorized acquisition, use, disclosure of such secret information in a manner contrary to honest commercial practices by other is regarded as an unfair practice. So the information can be a formula, pattern, process, plan and technique, and it must be kept in mind that it is not necessary that the information is unique or new. It can be any item by keeping which secret from our competitor, the company can get advantage. So with the view to keep trade secret to keep trade secrets secure, no patent or trademark is required. For a patent or trademark, the detail of the intellectual property is required to be provided, whereas trade secret is a secret property in itself. So what are the conditions? So what are the conditions of trade secrets? So in order to get the trade secret right on a certain intellectual property, the following conditions have to be fulfilled. So first one is it should be such an information as if kept secret becomes commercially valuable. Means if it is kept secret, then the company will get benefit from that information. Second one is effort should have been put into keep the concerned information secret. So Coca-Cola company has kept its original recipe secret. Only 2 persons have their reach up to this information. So this is a kind of trade secret. Next is the ways by which an information can be kept secret. So first one is to keep information locked where only the authorized people have access. The information can be kept through the medium of non-disclosure agreement. And last one is the electronic information can be kept secret through the medium of password. So the knowledge of which is to be to the limited number of persons. So these through these ways an information can be kept as a secret. And last one is the shortcomings of trade secrets. So the trade secret right is not completely safe like any other rights. It is neither registered nor any special provisions are there for its security. But in case of non-disclosure agreement, if someone makes the trade secret public, then the holder of agreement can take a legal action against such person. So this is all about trade secrets. And last one is geographical indications. Geographical indications are signs used on goods that have a specific geographical origin and possess qualities, reputation, or characteristics that are essentially attributable to that place of origin. Mostly, a geographical indication includes the name of place of origin of that good. So, like Darjeeling tea, Bikaneri bhujia, and silk of Mysore. So, from the above list, it is clear that the distinction of different products is on the basis of their place of origin. So the main conditions of geographical indications are, first one is, under the geographical indication mainly the agricultural, natural and manufactured products are included, and the product is either produced or manufactured in a special or unique geographical area. The products to which security is provided through geographical indication should have such special features as are related to only a particular area. And the last one is, generally the GI rights is concerned with product, but in certain countries services are also provided with the GI security. So in India, GI rights can be taken only in case of products, but in some countries services can also be covered in the GI sector. So last one is the registration process of geographical indication. First one is filing of application. First of all, the applicant must ensure that the proposed indication is within the scope of definition given in the GI Act. Any organization or a group of persons, after clarifying the interest of producers in the context of desired product, can submit the application for geographical indication. In the application, special features regarding the product and the map of related area is to be submitted with the officer. Next is preliminary scrutiny. The inspection officer examines the truth of information given in the application. In case of any objection, the applicant can remove the objection within 1 month. So after receiving the application form, the officer will check the validity of information, whether the provided information is true or not. And if any objection is found, then within 1 month, the applicant has the choice to remove that objection. Next is examination by the registrar. So after the preliminary examination of the application, the registrar does a thorough examination of it. In case of any objection, the applicant is required to reply to the objection within 2 months. So after preliminary examination, then the registrar officer will check that application form, and if any objection will be found, then the applicant has a time period of 2 months to reply to that objection. And if the registrar is satisfied with the information, then he will sanction the application. Next is publication of geographical indication. So within 3 months of the grant of sanction by the registrar, the publication is done in the journal. Next is opposition of registration. Up to 3 months of publication in the journal, the third party can submit its application of opposition. The following information in this context is available. As in 1997, the American company RiceTech Incorporation submit the application in the US Patent Office. for naming the rice produced outside India as a basmati, but India opposed against it because there was geographical indication security granted to basmati in India. So the grant of patent in this context could adversely affect the export of Indian rice. Consequently, the registrar rejected the application. Next is granting registration. When all the objections have been removed, the registrar accepts the application and he issues certificate to the applicant. And last one is renewal. So once the registration is done, it is valid for a time period of 10 years, and after the expiry of that period, it can be renewed by submitting the fixed payment. So these are the steps to be followed for the process of registration of a geographical indications. So I hope the topic of intellectual property right and the chapter of small business and enterprise is clear to all of you. So thank you, students.